right. This. Oh, boy. Oh, come on. Start texting, man. Start texting. Start leaving your messages. Tell me. I'm going to go over to the internet over here and look for you. Looking for you. Da 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 da. Live now. Oh yeah. Microdose of orange pill. 14th of October. Seems like 14th of October should be an important date. Does anything important happen today? I see them commenting. They're saying, yes, it's an important date. It's so important that there's a microdose of Max and Stacy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's What the Fuck Wednesday, and we're microdosing. Orange pill.
Orange pill. How's my hair look? Everybody
Fucking
usually...
awesome. I can't believe it. It's incredible.
Right. I like to wear my cactus shirt. It feels like, this is the time of the year I really think of Palm Springs. I want to be in Palm Springs. I want to be with the scorpions and the cactus and the watermelon margaritas. That's where I want to be.
Oh, man, it's like 105 degrees last I checked. Really sunny, beautiful, desert-like. Yeah, Palm Springs is awesome.
Right. So I'm going to go to there and check it out. This has been a big week, Max. This has been a huge week because we've seen some more, we've seen treasuries being moved into Bitcoin. We saw another big hedge fund move. They have a couple billion under management and they moved $100 million into Bitcoin. So they've passed square in terms of their treasury. And we've seen the massive global bank Fidelity urge their clients to put 5% of their assets into Bitcoin.
Right. Well, as we remarked, when Paul Tudor Jones announced he had 1% of his portfolio into Bitcoin or Bitcoin futures, that was really firing the starting gun for a corporate mad rush into Bitcoin. And it's just gotten accelerating every week now. So you've got Square, you've got MicroStrategies, Fidelity. And I saw that Barry Silbert's company added another billion in Bitcoin and other related assets over the past quarter. So he's at something like 7.5 billion. And so this now becomes a race to see who can acquire the most Bitcoin, because it's the only asset that corporations can put on their books to protect them against all kinds of problems, most principally inflation, money printing, profligate central banks, irresponsible banks, chicanery, accounting fraud, and everything else.
Well, this has also been a week where we're seeing these, central bank warfare, I see, as part of the geopolitical warfare that goes on between, we started with currency war, it leads to trade war, it leads to hot war. We're now in the trade war part of that Thucydides trap going on between China and the United States. So that has that started out as a currency war, and that's turned into a trade war. And whether or not the hot war comes next, it seems like it could be because, of course, in the past week, we've seen Congress, at the behest of Trump, sell a whole bunch of weapons systems to Taiwan. So it seems like that could be a big hot war conflict zone coming up. But we've seen in the past week, the Central Bank of China, the People's Bank of China, has started issuing their digital yuan, and they're airdropping it essentially $2 million worth on random people across the country. So whoever signs up for an account, some of them are going to get randomly bequeathed with a bunch of Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, of their shitcoin essentially.
Right. So this is China seizing the reins of the US dollar as world reserve currency away from America. And it's the de-dollarization, the de-globalization. Those are themes we've been talking about for a couple of years.
Yep.
And this makes it possible for China to opt out of the current currency grid. They can opt out of SWIFT. They can opt out of the dollar. They can opt out of the New York Fed that runs the global dollar hegemony. And they airdrop their crypto coins into wallets in China. Simultaneously, on the culture war, I was really amazed. I saw an interview where I saw basically Tucker Carlson over there at Fox talking about how the last game of the finals in the NBA, the National Basketball Association, with the LA Lakers and LeBron James, hit a ratings low, historic ratings low. And they chalk it up to how the NBA and supporters like Mark Cuban are being characterized as anti-American and pro-China. So they're saying that the NBA has split, has seceded from America's culture and is being co-opted by China. And so the culture war is in play between America and China, the financial war, central bank war. So this is really contentious.
Yes, but remember, everybody out there, we are Orange Pill. We are all Bitcoiners, and we've taken the Orange Pill, and Orange Pill Nation is global. We have like people from 100 different nations in the group. So that's what unites us. They want us to be at war. They want us to hate each other. They want us to think like, this culture is better than that culture. Obviously, cultures are different, and we see that. We see that with the coronavirus. The Asian countries managed to have almost zero deaths. Vietnam has had 35 deaths, for example, and yet they have 95 million people, which is just a third of the United States. So if the United States were equal to Vietnam in terms of the impact of coronavirus, we would only have about 100 deaths here instead of 210,000 deaths. But it's also just part of our culture. We're cowboys, and we shoot first, ask questions later, and we have a constitution which guarantees our liberties even in the face of a pandemic. So there's nothing you can do about it. But, nevertheless, we're all united in the single culture of the Renaissance 2.0, of the Orange Pill Nation that is global, that accepts everybody. You just need one Satoshi of your own, and that's all it takes. So everybody in the world has a penny. You can find a penny on the ground somewhere and, become one of us.
Right. Nassim Taleb made this concept of the Black Swan famous with his book, The Black Swan. And the idea behind the Black Swan is that markets can suddenly, rapidly pivot and move in completely unexpected directions. And suddenly people who were big losers are big winners, and people who were big winners are suddenly big losers. So I think this COVID-19 is a classic Black Swan event. And the China was positioned to be a huge winner from it.
Yes.
That's just the markets are telling us. And it also indicates that the United States and Europe were not prepared, and they appear to be big losers. China's economy is thriving again. And in terms of culture and culture being different, yes, that's correct. It's different all over the world. In America, there are cultural artifacts. There are bits of the economy that are tied to the culture. One of those things would be sports and entertainment. And if you've got the NBA and LeBron James as the crowning jewel of King James at the center of that sports world this month, what people are saying is that the NBA, and they've made these overtures, and not implicit, but you can really infer that they are essentially putting China first. And I think as a piece of cultural institution here in the U.S., the game was invented here in America. Remember, the college professor put up 2 peach baskets at either end of the tennis court and took out a rubber ball, and he invented basketball. Now it seems as though it's being essentially sold off to China.
Right. Somebody's saying, buy silver crash JP Morgan. This is why people need to stay alert and stay informed and stay attached to this. We won. Stop thinking like a loser. Nobody needs to be a loser. Everybody could be a winner if they change their mindset. You won. JP Morgan had a massive, 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 massive global short position on silver back in 2010 and 2011. They had a massive short position that left them vulnerable for a brief period of time. Max and Stacy told you, hey guys, JP Morgan is vulnerable right now, right this second. Go out and buy 1 ounce of silver. It costs $14. Just buy an ounce of silver, and that takes physical off the market. Their short position, which was larger than the entirety of the global physical market, you can take them down now. the central banks were bailing them out, but you could target them right now with this weak position. Well, you know what? They are smarter than most of you. The guy who wrote Buy Silver Crash JP Morgan, they are smarter than that guy. Because what did they do? What did Jamie Dimon, what did Blythe Masters, what did their precious metals desk do? They went out and became the single largest holder of physical silver in the world. JP Morgan today is the largest holder of physical silver in the world. They don't have paper shorts. They have long, solid bars of silver. So you could consider that a win. We ended their fraud game of paper manipulation on silver markets. They continued on gold because, of course, you couldn't defeat them with gold because, it was harder to say buy an ounce of gold because, central banks have most of the gold, and the women of India have strong hands. They're not going to let go of their gold. So they were vulnerable on silver. We won. You declare victory. You have to learn how to declare victory. Otherwise, you'll always be a loser. Jamie Dimon will always have his boot on your neck.
Look, we started recommending silver at $5. When it got to 15, the JP Morgan short became news. We did the calculations. We figured that if you get silver high enough, JP Morgan would be put out of business. We, the collective fan base of Max and Stacy, drove silver from $15 to $50.
Yep.
Which was the old high under the Hunt brothers. And then, JP Morgan got the Feds to expand their credit lines, and they tripled and quadrupled their short sales, and they drove it back down. And now they're the biggest owner of silver, and the price of silver is still targeted for 100, 150 and above.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still a winning trade today. You're still making money. You're still beating the market, as you are with gold. We've been talking about since 2003. That's outperformed the market. It's outperformed Warren Buffett. We were chastising Jamie Dimon about Bitcoin. He made really disparaging remarks about it. He hated on Bitcoin. Today, they just released a report saying they believe that Square's purchase of Bitcoin legitimizes Bitcoin in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty soon, JP Morgan will be adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet because they're a follower, not a leader. So we do what we do. We fundamentally alter global markets by injecting common sense into price discovery. And so, yeah, silver's a winner, gold's a winner. Bitcoin, we recommended at $1. That's obviously a huge winner. People who would focus on a 1 week or 1 month price action, that's what we call noise. And markets, you have to be able to separate signal from noise. You never get rid of noise, and there's always a signal. If you can correctly identify the signal, you can be fabulously successful. If you are focused on the noise, you're constantly constipated, and you're just never ever getting anywhere. And that's but most people are very comfortable living in noise, and that's the experience of most people. But the signal, there is a signal there, and if you understand how to receive it, it's worthwhile.
Well, what we're trying to say is, like, a lot of people, you see that with the altcoin market and stuff. They want number to go up, and that's what drives them, and that leaves them vulnerable. It leaves you very vulnerable because it's a weakness. Just like when JP Morgan had this massive short, it exposed that was a weakness. That is an open target right there to, that's their flaw. That's where you can go after your enemy. The same with you. They know that you're going to look for number go up, so they could divert you into pump and dump schemes and stuff like that. What is bigger and what cannot be defeated, as history has taught us, is ideas and how you feel about yourself and how strong you are. It's like that famous fable of the baby elephant can be tied up to a tree, right, with a rope. And you could keep that elephant tied up to that tree until it's a huge behemoth who could easily pull that snap away from that rope, but you've trained it to think that it's weak. So JP Morgan, the banks train you to think you're weak. What we used was $500 silver if you want it.
Right, exactly. That's what we said. If you want silver to go to 500, it can go to 500. And that's still true because you can remove the physical silver from the market, and you would get rid of the manipulation going on in the COMEX and other exchanges. That's absolutely true. And, the comments, it's interesting how to separate signal from noise. For example, if the comments were weighted in terms of, you'd see at the top of the comments, based on the wealth that we've created for people over the past 15 years, particularly with Bitcoin, because it's well documented now and well known that we've created hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin millionaires around the world. So if you just had it weighted per net worth enhancement on the comments, you'd have, okay, we probably made at least 1 or 2 billionaires, then some 100 millionaires, and then that would be the signal. That would be, okay, these people understand the signal. And then you go down like 6 or 7 feet down through the comments, a few thousand comments, and there's somebody who lost $5 because they bought and sold within 5 minutes. And then they have a comment, right? And that's noise. That's not a worthwhile piece of information. So, but the way the information is displayed now, there's no differentiation between signal and noise. So it just then you have to rely on your experience.
But again, I also believe that what is valuable, if you have $1 worth of Satoshi, you are way more powerful than the multi-billionaire Jamie Dimon. I really believe that. I believe Alakanani, for example, is way more powerful and wealthier than Jamie Dimon. She is not a multi-millionaire Bitcoin hodler. She's been in Bitcoin since 2012. But she is way more fierce. She is a genuine honey badger against the likes of Jamie Dimon. So it's beyond that. It's like, it's the power of you as an individual, of all of us acting together against this system, which is absurd. And for example, let's look at Congress. And that's because that's where this originally started, right? When we said $500 silver, if you, the people, want it. What John Lennon and Yoko Ono said is, war is over if you want it. Congress can declare war. You hire Congress. You elect them. You do it. And yet you keep voting for Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi has been in Congress for like 30 something years. You keep on doing that, and she keeps taking you to war. So that means you want war. You don't not want war. You want war. And because you keep electing her. So it's you, the mindset of the voter, who has to change. Vote, they have to overcome your innate sense. Most people want aristocracy. They like aristocracy. They like, having these figureheads. We've had it throughout history. It's so common that you must think it is something innate to humans that they like to idolize and worship a certain individuals or families and put them over there. We have the Kennedys, we have the Bushes, we have family dynasties in America, and I think it has to be you as well. People want that, so either you accept that and abide by that and figure out how to work around that. And the founding fathers, I think, understood this, and they did create a brilliant document which had many, many checks and balances to overcome our innate sense of needing aristocracy.
Well said. Well said. Well said.
Well, if you have any comments for us, send in keep the Senate, abolish the House. Well, the House is supposed to be the people's representative, right? And the Senate was supposed to be the state's representative. So the state, I guess how it's kind of changed, but originally it was like you elected your House, your representatives in the state of, say, North Carolina, and your representatives of state selected the senators. And then it became a popular vote as well. So the Senate has kind of become the People's Party as well as the Congress, the House of Representatives. But I don't know if that's better or worse. I don't know why we changed it, but they keep on trying to change that. They keep on trying to change the Senate, right? That this is what the voting reform is about, the electoral reform that they keep on trying to push on us is that, well, most of the country lives in California or New York, and therefore they only have 2 senators each, like every state, and therefore they should have more, and places like the Dakotas should have fewer. But that's what I'm saying is the Senate was supposed to represent each state. So each state has 2 representatives in the Senate. The House is made up, determined by the population of the state. So some states will have 5 representatives, some will have 10, and stuff like that. So, you know, they're deceiving you when they say, oh, the Senate should also have more representatives. No, every state gets the same number of representatives. That's the thing. It's not about population. It's about the state, the individual state.
Right. Well, the whole system is supposed to be distribution of power.
Yes.
With lots of checks and balances. And this is, I think, a preferable way to govern a nation than having an autocratic state. But unfortunately, in the U.S., it's not autocratically governed with a king or a monarch or communist leader, but it is autocratically ruled over by a clique of multi-trillion-dollar corporations. And in the case of the COVID-19 crisis, the U.S., under the system of distribution of power, would be agile enough to quickly put that crisis to bed, but it was unable to. And the inferior way of governing, the autocratic and the dictatorial system in Asia, they actually beat us out. So that was unfortunately a quirk of history, and with this now going back, but in theory, it would have worked.
Yeah, but also places, like other places in Asia, they're not all like authoritarian and communist single party control, like brutal, like China is. But nevertheless, they managed to do it. That's because they're just not gunslingers. We're gunslingers, and that's the way we're going to do it. So you need to come up with a plan around that, and we didn't. So, but fair enough. We're gonna that's the passing of the torch. There was a passing of the torch when the British Empire fell, when the Spanish Empire fell, when the Roman Empire fell. All empires fall. They all have an end, and it's inevitably you're either going to die of a heart attack or cancer or dementia. There's only so many ways to die. Eventually, maybe you hit 120 and you finally just die of old age. But whatever, you have to die.
The timing was in accordance with history.
Yes.
Empires generally, in the sense the Spanish, going back to the 1500 era in Columbus, they last maybe 100 years. The U.S. had its 100 years run. Plus, we had an enormous signal in the market. This is what I'm talking about, being able to listen to the markets and differentiate between signal and noise. Negative interest rates on sovereign debt, the first time ever in history that's ever happened, was a signal. That was a signal. We now know 5, 6, 7 years later, it signaled the end of the American empire. That's what it was telling us. Now, a lot of people will fight that, and they'll try to fight the signal by pushing noise. So when you go to cable TV, it's a wall of noise to try to cover up the signal. But if you know how to read the signal, then you would be able to filter out the noise. Very few people are trained or have an instinct or an aptitude for signal reading, unfortunately, but that's not taught anywhere. But that was the signal. That was the lighthouse and by the rocks spinning, and showing the ship, hey, this is the signal. You are about to hit the rocks. Do not go down to negative interest rates on your debt. Don't do it. And of course, everyone did it.
Speaking of signal and noise, remember back in 2016 when there was that absolutely devastating, humiliating loss from Hillary. Hillary was riding around already decorating the Oval Office and saying she was going to win and it was her turn and all this sort of stuff. And then she lost, and it was a traumatic event. It traumatized them. But what happened is that she concocted all these conspiracy theories and all her, basically her Telegram group of groupies all like conspired to basically push a conspiracy theory. And one of the things they did was, with the deep state, they got this DNI report to determine that it was basically Kaiser report caused this. And one of the things they mentioned was that, that Kaiser report had talked about fracking and that makes no economic sense. Well, I mean, look at the signal being sent to you today. Like, you listen to the noise. Again, it's your choice. Like Rachel Maddow, you can believe her. Like, we don't tell you not to believe her. She tells you not to believe us. I'm saying go to her and listen to her and find out what you think makes more sense and who turns out to be more right and who turns out to be more wrong. Well, I would guess that if you look at our content, that we are always right versus her. Sometimes we're wrong, but not as much as she is. Here is a tweet today from Adam Tooze. Almost all players in shale destroyed value except from landowners and early exits. Exxon, ConocoPhillips, and BHP did so on a huge scale. They exited with your money because you believed it was your patriotic duty to invest your pension fund into a proposition we told you just on the sheer mathematics, the data, the blockchain of fracking results showed you that there was no profit ever to come in there. And we told you that. It's just what we saw in front of our face. We didn't do it from a Republican perspective or a Democrat perspective or a US perspective or a Saudi perspective or China perspective. We're just saying, well, whoever's doing this is losing money. I mean, the Pentagon always loses money, so there are some industries where you just lose money because it's a service, right? You need a defense system and it's not there to make money. So if you want to include it under defense and you want to say, we want to be able to say we're number one, fair enough, but don't pretend it's an enterprise in which you make money.
Right. There was 3 components to the fracking hoax. One, that was negative cash flow from day one, and without any hope or promise or expectation of ever being positive cash flow. So that, of course, you'd ask yourself, how do they get the money to do this?
Yeah.
Okay. Step 2 is that, there's a pipeline between the fraudulent frackers and Wall Street, and they were selling junk bonds to pension funds. And pension funds are notorious for never doing any due diligence. So they were just dumping fracking junk bonds into pension funds to fund the cash flow negative with no hope of ever being cash flow positive fracking industry.
Nope.
And then the third element is, how do you sell this to the American people? How do you get them not to look at the signal and to only focus on the noise? Wrap it up and tie a ribbon around it about, quote, energy independence, and we're going to beat the Saudis, those bad Saudis. That's the sizzle on the cells. And so that was obvious from day one. There wasn't even 5 minutes going back to the earliest rollout of these fracking rigs that this was ever going to be anything but a complete money-losing hoax for anybody invested in the equity. But okay, Wall Street would make some fees selling some junk bonds, but those junk bonds would all go to zero. And tragically, all of those frackers walk away.
Yes.
And they leave an incredible environmental damage paid for by you, the taxpayer. So that's how ultimately it becomes a huge drain. The debt in America goes up again to pay for the eco damage from the frackers that were never, ever going to make money. But there was a huge Ponzi scheme hoax, and Wall Street made a bundle.
Yep. We said it. I'm just telling you, we try to tell it as we see it. Like, everybody has their own bias, and again, your culture you grew up with, and that's how you view things. And that's why we try to interview people from different cultures, like Nozomi Hayes, who grew up in Japan, or Ale Kanani from Botswana, or Adam Back from the UK. Like, it's good to always question your own biases and try to challenge them. It's difficult and it hurts sometimes, and your natural instinct is to resist it. But, you keep on doing that. So, I wanted to point out about these central bank digital currencies that are popping up. And we mentioned the digital yuan. But one of the things that the U.S. Federal Reserve said, and what they're contemplating, is essentially QE for the people. They haven't done it yet, but they're planning on doing it. And what they plan on doing is, they said that the Fed can get a digital dollar to the people. And even those in America without a bank account, and many have no bank account because they're not, they're not worth the time of the banking system. So every individual in America will be able to open an account at the Fed, and the Fed will deposit digital dollars into your bank account. So in the Constitution and the founding documents, it mentions that no state can issue their own currency that is not backed by gold or silver. And the reason why they say that is because the U.S. nation itself, the federal government, did not want to ever have to go to war because one state issued too much debt that they couldn't pay back to, say, France. So they had to have it backed by actual assets. If they're going to loan, if they're going to borrow money from France, they better make sure, and issue a bond that it has to be backed by gold or silver. So now it seems that the Fed is circumventing that. They basically say in their own report about this is that the Congress doesn't want to, it's ripped apart by partisanship. It doesn't want to have to borrow money in the market. So anytime the Congress, through the Treasury, issues the stimulus, like remember everybody got this $600 enhanced unemployment benefit. They also got $1,200 stimulus, and that PPP, those small business loans, the Paycheck Payment Protection Act, or whatever. So those programs came out of the U.S. Treasury, and the Treasury therefore had to go to the markets and borrow $3 trillion in the second quarter. But that takes a long time. So the Fed is saying we could just issue credit like we do to all the banks, and we issue them to individuals. So they're doing a runaround of the Congress and the slowness. And remember, we're just talking about the checks and balances. Those checks and balances are built in for a reason. But now we're saying, let's just do this for expediency. We all love our aristocracy. We love Queen Pelosi on one side and the Bush family on the other. Like, we love our aristocrats. But here, let's do this. We all love each other, right? Let's just like rip up the Constitution and go around it.
Look, when I was told a few weeks ago, when I posited that they would just do an end run around Congress,
yep,
people would say to me, hey, only Congress can authorize money and money distribution. And I said, look, this is an administration run by bankers, Steve Mnuchin and others from Goldman Sachs and Wall Street. And the mantra on Wall Street has always been that do what you need to do to make money. And, if there's any legal problems, we'll deal with that later. We got lawyers, we got tons of lawyers. We're financial engineers. The law has to catch up to us. That's always the way. I worked on Wall Street for many years, and this is what people are told. Your first day on the job is don't worry about laws. We got lawyers. Just make us money. And if we need to, we'll get laws changed. We'll create new laws. All the money comes from us. Right? No one can stop us, right? So, yeah, of course they're going to do an end run around Congress. Of course they're going to have to keep the Ponzi scheme going because you can't taper a Ponzi scheme. Of course they're going to use whatever means necessary to lubricate the wheels of this sinking ship to make sure it sinks faster, because they've all got credit default swaps on America's demise. When Greece went under, when Greece hit the skids, when the Greek economy collapsed, trillions of dollars were made on credit default swaps betting against Greece. Same thing in other European countries. And now we've got huge players in the global financial markets that have taken out huge negative bets against the United States surviving. And if the U.S. completely and utterly disintegrates, there's going to be billions and trillions of dollars pocketed in profit on that using credit default swaps and other derivatives.
Yeah, and the derivatives will be in Bitcoin because they don't want to get paid out in dollars. But this is, everything is game theory, right? And it has been forever. Like, look at the game theory that played out through the collapse of the British Empire and what nations were doing beggar thy neighbor sort of policies, and even the Versailles Treaty that devastated and humiliated Germany. And it's all game theory. And sometimes your game theory works out well, and sometimes like you make a bad move. And the same thing here is, I think, I just said this on Kaiser Report, which is that from 2008, what happened is, remember, China always had a huge pile of savings. And their people saved, the nation saved, they had a huge trade surplus, all this stuff. And then what happened from 2008, 2009? Well, this was their moment to strike, right? They saw, as we know that all the foreign leaders saw, because Dmitry Medvedev held up that gold coin and saying, basically, we're going to go to a Bancor-style global trade settlement currency. The dollar is dead. The dollar's days are over. Well, China also backed that, and they believe in some sort of system like that. So, however, they knew this was the end. They knew this is the beginning of the end. It wasn't yet the end, and that's a good thing, right? It's what they do is they racked up trillions in debt. Look at the explosion in credit in China. Now, that's not their mindset to be reckless like that, right? So they're making a conscious decision. They believe if this system is going to blow, we might as well get a whole bunch of free stuff while we can and save our gold, save Bitcoin, save all these hard currencies, the hard assets, and build up infrastructure while we can on this system. And I think that went on for a bit, and I think the US figured that out. I think, because that's what Trump is. Trump is a con man himself, right? This is what a New York con man knows another con man. Like, if you grow up, having to walk through Times Square, you quickly learn how con men operate. And so he could spot a con man a mile away because he's a con man. So he knows what's going on. He sees the game being played. And so that's why we're racking up. We've abandoned all pretense as well.
Well, that's the currency war. It's an attempt to debase your currency more than the other country to spur exports. And that's why we would always hear the phrase that, China's a currency manipulator, right? Well, yeah, so is America, and so is every other country in the world. In an all fiat world, there is no currency out there backed by anything. It's all backed by other fiat currency. And it's always been about trying to debase faster than the other guy. And what happens is you reach the saturation of debt, and you have to come to the table and restart the game.
Yes.
And when that happens, it's he who has the most gold is in the best position. So what's China been doing the last 10 years during the end game of the global fiat money collapse? They've been stockpiling gold in the thousands of tons.
And Bitcoin.
Same thing with China. China's been doing that. Same thing with Russia. Same thing with other countries who are waiting for the big global reset, because when everyone sits down to the table and they say, we've got to reset, we've reached the end of this round of monopoly, and it's going to be okay. Tell us how much gold you have. And that's how we're going to relaunch the global foreign exchange market. And so China's ready for that. They've got plenty of gold.
Yeah. And remember, like, where this really started, again, like the only reason that can explain the huge explosion in credit in China, the only reason is that they know that credit is never going to have to be repaid, because that's not in their culture, and that's not in the way they run their economy, that they would make themselves so vulnerable otherwise. If they thought it had to be paid back in US dollars, if they thought that the US dollar would survive, they wouldn't be racking up that debt like that. No. But remember that year that they were like the stars of Davos? Wasn't that also the year when Davos was saying we need 100 trillion in credit to rescue the economy? And the leader of China is just going, President Xi is just going, okay, cool, gotcha, I understand what's going on. And then he went home and said, rack up the debt, hurry up, because this thing is gonna blow.
Right, exactly. So they're playing the long game, and this is the year. COVID triggered the end. It kind of triggered the countdown now to global reset, because
to the end of the end.
Yeah, a couple of countries now are really hanging on by a thread, and it won't take much. They're going to fall, and then that'll set off a domino effect, and the banking system will have another huge collapse, and the big, like a Deutsche Bank or another bank, will have huge problems, and that will be the beginning of Bretton Woods, 2.
I laugh because Deutsche Bank, I don't know if you saw this headline. It was in the news just 2 days ago, and it's just, of course, there's so much crazy that's happening nonstop every day in 2020 that it just like goes through your stream and disappears. But what it was is that Deutsche Bank found to have been funding ISIS, like they were lending. They had, how HSBC had those special boxes for the drug cartels in Mexico City. Well, they had their own special way to run money to ISIS. So it's like, oops, and it's like it's nonstop. Every single month they get caught with something else. So the question is, what's this infraction? How much of a fine is this infraction going to occur?
Right. And when the fines become bigger than the GDPs of some countries, that's generally going to be toward the end game.
Right. Let's read a few comments. Stacy with the facts. I want to thank Max and Stacy for 4 years ago. I came across Kaiser Report. He spells it Kaiser Report. I've seen just
Fuck
about
you, spelling my name wrong.
I've seen just about every episode since. Changed my life. Bro, fight Peter Schiff.
I fought him 5 or 6 times. I'm undefeated. I beat Peter Schiff in at least 5 debates, and live debates, video debates, whatever. He never made any points. He was never able to articulate his points. And meanwhile, the Bitcoin price, when I started talking to Peter Schiff about Bitcoin, it was $1, $10, $100, $1,000, $10,000. The market is proving me correct. Everything I've said is proved correct. All the proselytizing that I've talked about in terms of Bitcoin being, semi-conscious, and Bitcoin being consciousness raising and all those kind of philosophical points, they're being repeated now too by the likes of Michael Saylor and
Oh,
others.
yes.
Right. So, I mean, I've won not only on the theoretical side, but also on the practical side. And Schiff has not scored even 1 point. He was doing worse against me than the Miami Heat did against LA Lakers in Game 6 of the finals. He literally is just a non-event. I can't imagine he's going to go it's foolish to talk about. I feel bad beating up on a guy when he's already been on the floor bleeding. You know, you just walk away with a victory, as you were saying. When you have a victory, you have a victory. It doesn't make sense to keep beating on somebody after you've already won.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because, like, first of all, it pounds into you. It changes you into a loser when you're the winner. Like, if you need to stop thinking like a loser. But it's important to also be a gracious loser as a gracious winner. So you have to be a gracious winner. Max has won and Peter Schiff has lost.
No, Peter Schiff is like the Hillary Clinton of economics.
Yes!
You know, he won't just admit he lost and try to start a new life. I mean, Norton, when he lost to Ali in the Thriller in Manila, he ended up becoming the biggest seller of grills in America, Ken Norton.
No,
And
no, that's not his name.
what's his name?
What's it? What's the guy's the grill guy? Put it. Somebody say it in there.
Yeah.
You guys know it's that famous boxer. He has the goddamn grill.
Right.
Come on,
Norton.
Norton.
Is his name Norton?
Let me see. Grill.
The Norton Grill? Or am I thinking about something else?
No. You're thinking of something else.
Jeez.
Norton. Like who's the boxer? The boxer?
Ali.
George Foreman.
Yeah. Darn it. I don't know why I had Ken Norton. George Foreman. He make more money selling grills than he ever made as a boxer.
Well, our people figured it out as soon as we figured it out too.
Right. So Peter Schiff, okay, his business is not doing well because he's had horrible underperformance versus Bitcoin, and so he should pivot. He should quit and start something else. He could still be successful in life if he quit his brokerage industry business and started something else, like maybe selling cut flowers or selling beautiful ornaments, Christmas ornaments or something. It's coming up. Cufflinks. Yeah, the Peter Schiff
cufflinks you can dance with. Cufflinks you can dance with.
Right. He should go into the jewelry business full time, and he can still win. He can still make something of his life.
Well, people are actually asking us when we're going to get a T-shirt shop. They love your T-shirts.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. You know, merchandise and
a lifestyle shop.
It's lifestyle, the Orange Pill lifestyle, the Max and Stacy lifestyle.
Who could rig it up for us? Because the thing is, Max and Stacy have limited time. We spend a lot of our time loving each other. Like, we just stare at each other and
dreamily.
We don't speak. We talk to each other. We communicate, nevertheless, like with googly eyes and deep thoughts.
Yep. So I'm like, my eyes when I'm around you are like that clock with the kitty cat and the eyes that go back and forth and the tail goes like this. I just can't take my eyes off you. I'm transfixed.
Max beats Norton antivirus.
Yeah, Norton antivirus. That's it. Versus George Foreman in the Battle of Zaire.
Imagine a freaking boxer named Norton. It sounds like a total geek name. It sounds like a geek, right? They would come up with an antivirus software. They're not going to be like, "Hi, I'm Norton. I'm here to beat the shit out of you."
And in this court, Johnny Norton.
Hello.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
No. Whatever happened to that Mike Tyson fight? He's supposed to do
it's coming up. He did an interview on Britain, Good Morning Britain, with Piers Morgan, and he seemed like he was having a nervous breakdown or mental exhaustion or some
Mike Tyson?
Mike Tyson was having severe cognitive problems.
Really?
Yeah. And he could barely get through the interview, and everyone was like, wow, this is something's going on here. He later said that it was, he was fatigued.
Jet lag?
Well, it was through video, but there might have been a time gap, but he said he was suffering from extreme fatigue, and that would explain it. But that's still coming. That fight's still coming. He's training for it, and that sounds exciting, right?
Yeah, I want to see old men fight. These are like, it's
like a bum fight.
It's like a bum fight, but like pretty powerful old men.
powerful bums,
Yeah.
fighting. They're both in their 50s. One of the questions from Good Morning Britain was, you're over 50. Can you sustain the physical damage here? But the other boxer's also over 50. So
Yeah.
it's not like he's fighting a 25-year-old boxer. He's not fighting a young Mike Tyson, right?
No.
that would be dangerous.
Yeah.
He's fighting another old geezer. So I think it will be on relatively safe.
Right. Well, do you have any more questions other than like, how do we get, you know what? Guess what? What's our
What?
group? Orange Pill Podcast. How many followers do we have now?
A lot.
3,803. The Espanol has 369. That's pretty cool. We have our sponsor is thesunexchange.com/orange pill. Thesunexchange.com/orange pill. They've been a great sponsor so far of Orange Pill. I think the whole solar punk, fits in with our whole theme. I really want to go a bit deeper into solar punk because I like cyberpunk, cypherpunk, solar punk. What other sort of punks are there? Privacy punk. We're going to talk to you.
Steampunk? Did you mention that?
Oh, no, I didn't. Steampunk. That's one of the originals, right?
Yeah, it's been around for a while, steampunk.
Punk. There's Johnny Rotten who's voting for Trump.
That's right. He's so punk, he's gone Trump. John Lydon.
Yeah. I always consider him Johnny Rotten. But
yeah, Johnny Rotten. Yeah.
Yeah.
Johnny Rotten.
Yeah. Just like Frank Black, right, from the Pixies.
What about Frank Black from the Pixies?
What's his other name? Like, he uses another name as well. Right. I just saw a message from Madge Weinstein. That means she's not watching this, that bitch, right?
Oh my God.
Right. I could call her that because we're both women. But yeah, and so upcoming, we had an interview with Adam Back that went really well. Everybody loved it. I love this whole stuff about the satellites. Like, that's something that is out of this world. That was a funny joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like Saturday Night Live quality.
Gee, that's not saying much. Yeah, Adam Back was really interesting, of course, as always. And there was always something going on, some drama in the Bitcoin community. But I think we're entering a period post-drama. The whole Bitcoin space has been overly dramatic now for 10 years, and too many prima donnas. But now with MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, Paul Tudor Jones, and these people coming in, there's highly professionalized, much more professional, which is great. I'm happy about it because I started my career as a Wall Street professional and did that for many years. So this is very familiar territory to me, talking about income statements and balance sheets and corporate strategy and things like that.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, that's what I prefer, other than because for years we'd be like, remember, we went to a Bitcoin magazine meetup in London, somewhere in a basement in London with Amir Taki, and it was like so dense with smoke from illicit.
Oh yeah, that was like at a squat in East London.
Yeah.
Who else was there? Cory Doctorow had an office next door, remember? And we went over there.
Remember, we met up once with who's that guy? Peter Todd.
He came into the studio to interview.
And Amir Taki and
Vitalik. He lived in that squat.
Vitalik was living in that squat. So it's all very exciting and everything, but those days are over. Now we're into the professionalism of it all, which is much more familiar ground. And it means we're going to go a lot higher, just in time for the global fiat money collapse.
Yes. In fact, I want to wrap on two things. First of all, people are asking about the New York Post Hunter Biden story. Again, this is something we talk about all the time. It's just end of empire stuff. And we have blue team and red team. These are the two oligarchic, aristocratic families. If you're oligarch, if you're lord, the lord of the right or the lord of the left, they position it as right and left, whatever. It's red and blue. The lord of red, if the Lord of Red does something bad, then the red team say, no, our Lord is great. We're going to fight the blue side. And either way. So both sides are corrupt. And the blue team is already out there on Twitter saying this doesn't mean anything. And the red team is like, oh my God, look at that. It's all corrupt. Just stay positive. You are the winner. We are the winner. Orange pill is the winner.
Look, none of those people would exist without fiat money.
Exactly.
And Bitcoin cures all these problems. So, I mean, why try to separate the pepper from the fly shit? Right? So Hunter Biden is the fly shit, and Bitcoin is the real pepper.
Wow.
Okay, so
I need to write that down.
Why waste your time, starting to sort through the fly shit? Just focus on the pepper. Focus on Bitcoin. We're never going to solve it anymore. It's finished. The empire of America is done. All these politicians are going to be thrown out of office soon. There's a Bitcoin insurrection in motion.
Yep.
All the Peter Schiff is lost. All the people that told me that not to buy Bitcoin 5 years ago are now buying Bitcoin. Remember, I told Joe Wiesenthal to buy it at $10. I told Josh Brown to buy it at $10. I told even Saifedean to buy Bitcoin at $10. He said no. He came back in when it was $2,000 or $600. When Bitcoin finally got over $600, Stacy got Saifedean to buy some Bitcoin, and that was the beginning of his Bitcoin journey. And the list goes on and on and on. So the entire weight of history is now in our camp, in our corner. And now it's just a matter of letting the chips fall.
We're still rolling. I'm just,
all right.
I had to do something that hadn't been done. So.
All right.
I am still rolling. There was supposed to be something uploading in the background that I forgot to upload to our editor, but I'm uploading it now because I had it on pause. Anyway, that's what happens. And yes, we got Saifedean to buy Bitcoin. It was he's doing quite well for himself, and he's added a lot to the whole community with his book, The Bitcoin Standard. And I believe he's advising that hedge fund Stone Ridge that bought $100 million worth.
Yeah, and he was instrumental in getting Michael Saylor involved. The Bitcoin Standard is the primary textbook of Bitcoin.
Yep. By the way, I was going to say that we are going to be interviewing Frank Braun here too. I've invited him on to Orange Pill, and he's going to do that. I just saw a book, Extreme Privacy, that was written by, who's that guy that, the Dutch guy who disappeared a few months ago. But Frank Braun is the privacy extremist that came on to the Kaiser Report in 2012. Wearing a surgical mask, right?
Yeah.
So way ahead of our time here on Orange Pill. And there were two things I was going to say, the Hunter Biden thing. And we decided that, just forget those people. That's we're the Orange Pill. We're the positive side. Hunter Biden exists. That whole corruption exists because enough people around you in this fiat economy keep on electing those who bring them more. They keep re-electing Congress. They keep on for 20, 30, 40 years. The same people rule the U.S. and take us into war every single year. So, that's the choice they want to make. And you tried to work with them. Now we've succeeded into Orange Pill Nation. You don't need them. Like we don't need to just sit there and be Karens all day saying, you guys should do this and you should do that and stop doing this and stop bringing us into war. It's just like, okay, you guys want war, go do your war, go bankrupt on yourself and kill yourselves. We're going to stay positive. We're going to build stuff, and we're going to.
Yeah. What do you say about a group of people that 2 years ago were saying we have the right to wear a mask to protect our privacy? And then within 2 years, they're saying we have the right not to wear a mask because we're trying to make a statement against something, fill in the blank. Okay, what do you say about people like that? Well, I would say that they are wrapped up in noise and are not appreciative of the signal. If, in fact, 2 years ago, wearing a mask was you were fighting for your right for privacy, wearing a mask would still be for fighting your right for privacy today, right? People who are privacy advocates would be saying, okay, I'll wear a mask, no problem. Fine. But that argument never comes forward because there's just too much noise out there and not enough signal.
Right. And so the next episode of Orange Pill podcast out this Sunday, we have the guest is Robert Breedlove. So if you have any questions, put them in one of our hugely successful Orange Pill podcast Telegram groups. You could follow us on Twitter. That's Orange Pill Pod on Twitter. We're Orange Pill on Telegram. and Orange Pill en Español on the Telegram in Español. I get to speak some Spanish over there, and I get to amuse some people, I guess, with my bad Spanish. But I guess that's it for right now, and I think it's a good time to wrap it up.
Oh yeah, excellent idea. Let's wrap it up, say goodbye, and then we'll be looking forward to Sunday for Orange Pill podcast number 10, I believe. Bye.